start recording and I'm going to share my screen. But before I do that, I'd like to welcome everyone to this AGM, which is our 74th AGM. So next year is going to be a very special year when the Cape Bird Club celebrates its 75th birthday, and that is in April next year. So do be aware of that, everyone. And if you have any bright ideas about some innovative ways that we can celebrate that special year, please let your new committee know. I'm going to proceed with the activities of tonight. First, I have muted some people, but other people have muted themselves. But please make sure that both your microphone and your video are muted. If you wish to, I don't want to mute people from this side because for some reason we don't seem to have one of those wavy hands where you can alert us to the fact that you are wanting to speak. So if you do wish to speak, you should be able to unmute yourself, and you must do so if you wish to raise an issue, make a comment, propose or second a motion, and then mute yourself immediately after speaking. Please, can I also ask you, if you haven't yet done so, I know quite a lot of people have done it already, but please enter your name into the chat box if you are a paid up member of the Cape Bird Club and therefore have voting rights. Gillian is sitting at the end of her computer, jotting down everybody's names so that we end up having a record of who's attending this meeting. And also just to show that we did indeed have a quorum at least, not a forum, a quorum. This is the agenda of our meeting tonight. I'm not sure whether all of you can see it because I seem to have a black menu bar over the top. But basically, we have to look at the minutes of last year, which have been on the website for the last 3 weeks, if not longer. We have to look at matters arising from the minutes. I'm not going to give a chairman's report or the conservation report this evening, except to mention a couple of matters. I hope that many of you have read those. They have been available on the website with links from the e-newsletter. Joy will speak to the financial report, and she will also speak to the appointment of the auditor. Then we will move into the elections for the new committee, and you will have an opportunity to bring up any other business. There will be a presentation of Promerops Awards, and then before Michelle Vrettos speaks, we will be having the raffle draw. So that is the procedure this evening. So first of all, if you wish to share an apology, please can you record it with the word apology after the name, also in the chat box. Please, that we've got new people joining now, remember to sign up in the chat box that you are with us this evening. Apologies. I have received apologies from Peter Steyn, who finds Zoom very difficult. Cheryl Leslie is away, and Jackie Mortensen has family staying. So those are 3 that I have received. I do still have the apologies that were handed to me for when we had the 10th of March as our date for the AGM. And if those people don't appear in the chat box, I will take it that they still are holding to those apologies that they may be away. Don't know why the slide now doesn't want to change. Right, so we come, whoops, finger trouble, backwards. We come to the minutes of last year's AGM, which have been available, and I hope that people have looked at them. And we need to confirm that those minutes are a correct reflection, an accurate reflection of what happened last year. And if you wish to propose or second their confirmation, please can you unmute yourself now and give your name and just say whether you are proposing or seconding the confirmation of the last AGM minutes. Gillian will then record your names. I will give you a few moments to do that. Gillian, let me know if nobody confirms or seconds.
Priscilla, I'll confirm.
Right, is that
Okay.
Patrick?
That's right.
Thank you. So Patrick will confirm. Is there anyone who will second those minutes as being accurate?
John Magna.
I'll second.
Who was that?
Johan.
Johan and John Magna. Did I hear as well?
Yes, you did.
Yes, so
Yes.
Gillian, you've got two people seconding, Johan and John Magna. Thank you very much. So we take it then that everyone is happy with that. Does anyone wish to raise any matter arising from those minutes? Silence is golden. Can you all just say no? Unmute yourselves, say no, and mute yourselves again.
No.
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 Right. Thank you. Right, let's move on. Right, there are just a couple of matters in the chairman's report. This has been available, as has the conservation report of Dave Whitelaw. They've been available for reading on the website, and I hope that some of you have taken time. In fact, I know that some have, because people have commented to me. But I would just like to raise 2 points. First of all, the matter of Promerops. I want to highlight something. It is in the report, but I just think it's too important to just leave there. I only received my copy of Promerops yesterday because of postal delivery problems, but we won't go there now. And what a fine magazine it is. And we are not the only people who think that it's fine. We have received, Fiona received a request from the Bodleian Library. It's the, I must just check my notes. It's a special section, the Alexander Library of Ornithology, which is a branch of Oxford University's Bodleian Library. They are very keen to put a reference, a link to the web version of Promerops. They think so highly of it that they would like to put in a link. And also they've asked permission to put a link to Fiona's index that she has developed. These are both available on our website. Her index to Promerops is called Promdex, and it is a work in progress. She's keeping up to date with all the issues of Promerops that are produced now, as well as going back backwards and indexing Promerops of years gone by. So it's an enormously important resource, and we thank Fiona and we congratulate Fiona for this wonderful international recognition, which just supports our own recognition of what a fine job she's doing. The second point I want to bring up is to publicly thank my committee, not only the present committee or the one that's going out now, but people who have served on the committee while I've been chairperson. I've so appreciated their support, the camaraderie on the committee, the way no one's been afraid to speak out and disagree, and yet we have managed all to remain friends and be amicable about it. That is a mark of a great committee. Thank you very much to all of you. There is more of that in my chairman's report, and now I just want to single out Johan, simply because he is, like me, retiring this evening. And Johan, I have so valued your support over the years. You've been an invaluable member of the committee for the past 9 years, 7 of which you've served as in the position of vice chairperson. I can say it over and over, you are the person that helps me and has helped me clarify thoughts, think more logically and strategically about matters, and not only me, the whole committee as well. And it is you who has enthusiastically and energetically led the youth program, the primary school education program. And this is running at present in 2 Steenberg schools, and Johan is planning to go ahead and try and roll it out to a 3rd school. But I want to add that he is actually looking for a teacher or someone who knows how school works to be the coordinator of this program. So if any of you feel moved to do that, please let Johan know. But it was also Johan who led, I think it was 7 international tours in the space of 9 years. That was a great offering of the Cape Bird Club. And I wish somebody with international travel experience and planning experience would actually start something like that again. Although I suppose overseas travel is going to get more and more expensive. Johan too ran the courses committee, during which many of us were able to attend the most fantastic courses that left all of us re-energized in our birding. So Johan, many thanks for what you've done for the Cape Bird Club. Last year we gave you a Promerops Award, which you really did deserve. But I know that you're not going to leave the Cape Bird Club, you are just leaving serving on the committee. And we thank you for that. We thank you for your commitment. We thank you for your expertise. So that is all I'm going to say. You can read the rest of the chairperson's report and the conservation report. For those of you who have read those reports, is there anyone who wishes to bring up any matter arising out of them? And then again, if you wish to propose or second your approval and acceptance, please can you unmute yourself now and say your name and whether you are proposing or seconding Oh, I see I've made a typo. It's whether you are proposing or seconding the confirmation and acceptance of the chairman and conservation reports. Have we got anyone to propose? Anyone to second? Is that because people haven't read them and wish to do so?
Mel, unmute yourself.
Who's muted?
Can I propose acceptance of the chairman's report? Thank you, John Magna.
Okay, thank you. Have we got a seconder?
Mel.
Mel? Is that Mel or Mel?
Mel Tripp's got his mic is not working.
Oh, I see. Okay, great. But he's indicated that he's seconding. Thank you very much. Right, we now come to the Treasurer's report. And as I said, Joy is going to speak to that. Again, please unmute yourself if you wish to raise any matter that that concerns you with this report. Say your name and ask your question or make your point. Alternatively, ask the question in the chat box. And if you wish to propose or second approval at the end of her report, please unmute yourself when invited to do so. She is also going to talk to the appointment of the auditor for 2022. Joy, I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to ask you to share your screen. Joy, are you managing to do that? Maybe not.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You should be able to share now. Heather Hull, can you switch off your video, please? In the bottom left-hand corner. Just click where it says start video.
Okay, can you all see that and hear me?
I can't see your screen. Can anyone else see?
I just want to say that I didn't know my video was on and I don't know how to switch it off. And the person I can see all the time is Steve Wilson. I can't see myself.
Steve Wilson, can you try? Have you tried sharing, Joy?
Well, I thought I had, but I'm now going to have to go back to find it. I apologize, everyone.
These things happen.
Now I've pressed share screen.
Okay. And then you will go into something on your computer where you can see your slideshow, your PowerPoint.
Can you see that or not?
I can't. Can anybody else?
I'm twice here.
I can hear Joy, but not see her.
See her.
I mean, the problem is when I click on share screen, I don't think it's working because we've done this before, but just bear with me, folks.
All right, I'm also going to click on mine again just to make sure that I have given you all permissions, but I have done it 3 times over.
Okay, I've clicked on share screen.
Something came up momentarily. There we go. There we go. And then you need to click on slideshow in the top blue bar and from the beginning. There
Are
we
you?
go.
Are
Yes.
you?
Now we see it. Phew. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. Sorry about that, folks. We even practiced it. So anyway, okay. So this is the report. I'm going to go through quite quickly. I've marked in yellow some of the important things I've highlighted. You can see our current assets have in fact grown from the previous year, so that's positive. And then the assets are made up of various parts. And the important thing to know, though, is that this Julie Takroon account is included in the assets. But as you all know, I think now, that is money that is ring-fenced for use on the environment at Strandfontein or Heelbeck. So I think the important thing on this slide to look at is that we've got 62,000 Rand in subscriptions in advance. In other words, when people pay, they pay up front for the whole year. Looking at our gross revenue for the year, I've highlighted a few things. First of all, a number of people gave us some beautiful books, and we've been able, Penny and Priscilla have organized auctions. Many of you bought books in this way, and Penny sold some to a dealer, and we've also given some to the schools where our education project is operating. So that's a really wonderful return, 8,000 Rand on the books. For memorabilia, of course, we haven't had meetings, but Priscilla bought those rather beautiful buffs, which is why we're still in the red there. But of course, the money is pouring in from January onwards. Looking at donations, that's also worth noting because a lot of people give us money at the time when they pay their fees to BirdLife South Africa. As you know, BirdLife do all the administration of the membership. And so people give sometimes 20 Rand, sometimes 1,000 Rand at that time. So we made quite a bit of money, but included in this 31 is a wonderful donation from one member who gave us 20,000 Rand last year. And you'll see later on that we were able to pay for signage at Strandfontein out of that money, and we've still got some over. So most of our money does come from subscriptions. I'll look very quickly at our membership numbers. So you'll all know that the main member pays an amount, and the partner fee is about half of that, and children don't pay, children under 18. But looking at that, it's a wonderful figure of 700, but our actual income from subscriptions is down a bit. And that I think is due to a large number being overdue. And we're never really sure when somebody allows their fees to not be paid, at what point do we say, okay, they're not members anymore? So if you don't want to be a member anymore, perhaps you could just let us know, and it makes it easier for us. And the wonderful news, I think, is that in such a difficult year as we had last year, 76 people joined, so new members. Looking at our expenditure, the auditor is very reasonable. He's doing this work for us almost pro bono. The figure here of awards and donations is what we've given to other organizations, and I'll give you the details of that just now. Further down here, you'll see the figure for the signage. Big thanks to Mel for his artwork. And if you've been to Strandfontein recently, you'll see that we've got these very nice signboards up about it being a Ramsar site, and there's maps. And yeah, we're quite pleased with this signage now there. Youth initiative is down on what we spent the previous year, and that is the one area where we anticipate spending more as we go into the future without all the restrictions from COVID. So you'll see there are 21,000 Rand surplus for the year. These are the donations we made. We gave the Mouse Free Marion project 10,000 Rand. And then the committee gave Priscilla permission to commit to a further 10,000 Rand when she was on that fancy cruise that some of you have just had. So we've given 20,000 Rand for the Mouse Free Marion project. Then if you remember, Sandcob were asking for money when the cormorants were in trouble. We gave 10,000 there. We're members now of Sandcob, so that's also I've put in here as a donation, really. And we also gave a small amount to the Bird Lacer app when they called for assistance. And then the bird fair was a further 2 and a bit. So 27,000 Rand is donations we made. So I don't know whether anybody's got any questions about any of that, but I'd like to mention Mary Debrick, who's helped, I don't know now for how many years, definitely for as long as I've been the treasurer. She's done all the payments and coding, and she's tremendously neat and organized. And she is retiring from that role. She and her husband have moved to Somerset West, but I'd really like to single her out for big thank you as I end this talk. And then also a thanks to Paul Slack and Angela Wilson of Fast Track for helping with the annual financial statement. So at this stage, Priscilla, you say we need to call for proposers and seconders of the financial statements.
Yes.
Perhaps I could do that then before we go on. I'm just proposing that we continue with this, the same auditor next year. So Priscilla, do you want to organize that, the calling for?
Well, I think that people can do it right now. Is there anyone who would like to, well, first of all, is there anyone who wants to raise anything? Let's give you time to do that from those reports. And nothing being raised, who would like to propose acceptance of the accounts, the financials?
Perhaps, Priscilla, I should say that it's quite unusual doing this by Zoom.
Yes.
And our first face-to-face meeting will be in April. So I'll bring along a few copies of the full report. But if anyone wants to see the full report before then, they could just email me.
And I've actually also just remembered that another apology that came was Mike Buckham, who actually, as a committee member, commented very favorably on these. He is a financial man and he commented favorably on Joy's report. So shall I say that we are accepting these financials, or would people prefer to do that at the April meeting when we're face to face? I need some feedback from people.
At the risk of being monotonous, I propose that we accept these reports this year. Thank you, John Magna.
Okay. We don't mind you being monotonous, John Magna. All right. And I would second them. Thank you very much. Okay, Joy, well done.
Now, we also need acceptance of the proposal from myself for the auditors for this year, actually, 2022.
Well, I would propose that, if I'm allowed to.
So I'll second that. Patrick?
That was Patrick. And
Okay.
Marilyn has also said that she would like to propose or second wherever she's sent a message through.
Great. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so if you can stop your screen sharing, and I'll bring mine up again.
Sorry, Priscilla.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Mark. I was trying to get a question, Joy, if you don't mind asking a question quickly.
Yes.
Out of curiosity, why have the website costs doubled over the year?
I also looked at that. If I go back there, I think it's a case of what's been included in that section is the person that runs our website, but also the accounting system that I use, this pastel system, and there was something else, all the costs of, but I think the previous year, I've taken it down now, but if you look, there's the cost of club communications, I think it is, the previous year, that was a lot higher than it is this year. So if you combine those two together, it is more or less the same. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Okay, so something's just been shifted to a different account.
Yes, I looked at that. There's nothing, it hasn't gone up. It's just what's been included in that main heading.
Okay, I understand.
Are you happy with that?
Yes, I was just curious.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Mark, who is it?
Mark Pelteret.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Right, so that is done. And it doesn't want to change slides. Oops. Right, now we come to this part of the evening. And you will see that the majority of the committee have agreed to stand again. And I thank them for that. And we have two new nominations, Jane Dougherty and Joel Radu. And just to say a little bit about them, Jane is currently doing her conservation masters at the FITS, and so it's going to be lovely to have her on board. She wants to get to know more about the conservation side of things, and so we'll probably be assisting a lot with that side of things and helping Dave Whitelaw in amongst other little jobs. And Joel Radu is an exciting nomination as well. Well, both of these people are a little younger, and that's always great to have. Joel Radu is at university still, and he offered to come on board after it was mentioned to him in passing that somebody on the committee was keen to nominate him. And he agreed with alacrity, and we're looking forward to hearing from him from a fresh perspective, his ideas. He himself is actually chairperson of the UCT Bird Club, and we think that this could present an exciting opportunity for us to partner in a few little things with the students and lecturers at UCT. So that's just a little bit about the two of them. Now, so that will be your committee, if you agree to accept them. And so if there is an objection to any of these nominees, please just put a no in the chat box plus his or her name, and all non-replies will be counted as yes. Just calling on my committee, you will have to keep tabs on the chat box because I can't see it when I'm screen sharing. And just a note, and I've included this simply because everybody said to me, who's going to be chairperson? Who's going to be chairperson? That actually is historically decided at the first committee meeting, as are all the portfolios, and there might be some swapping around of portfolios on the committee as well. And you will be advised of all of those in the next e-newsletter and also in Promerops. Gillian, is there anyone who's objecting to any one of the nominees? I take it that there aren't, so can I then say that that will be your new committee for 2022 to 2023. Congratulations, everybody, and thank you for being willing to serve the Cape Bird Club in this way. So this brings us to almost the final part of the AGM. Is there anything general that anyone would like to raise about the Cape Bird Club? Any other business? I take it then that there's nothing. So we move on to the next step. And that is Promerops Awards. And for that, I'm handing over to Johan. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's my great pleasure and privilege as well to do the Promerops Award this year. Priscilla caught me by surprise last year. I can't quite say we're going to catch her by surprise, but it's appropriate that we not only thank her for the many years of diligent work as a chairperson, with lots of commitment, lots of enthusiasm, lots of ideas. But we also recognize her contribution over the years. Like quite a few other people in the Cape Bird Club, Priscilla is one of the graduates from Heather Howell's beginner's course, which dates back to the early 90s. And right from the beginning, Priscilla became a very active member of the Bird Club, participating in outings, meetings, courses, helping where we're asked. Priscilla was elected to the committee in 2008 and served in various capacities, ranging from the smaller ones like notice board to managing courses, being vice chairperson, arranging for all the evening programs, evening speakers, and in 2015, with some arm twisting, Priscilla took on the role of chairperson. And as I say, she's managed this very diligently and with great aplomb. And I can say it's been a real pleasure working with Priscilla on the committee. So in addition to arranging speakers, Priscilla assists with outings, workshops, both at the junior school program and the youth portfolio. She's very valuable in terms of researching and sourcing things like binoculars for school outings, hats, caps, and buffs for sale to members. And, as we heard earlier, assisting in the selling of the second-hand books. So Priscilla is not only a chairperson, she's very actively involved in a whole range of portfolios and activities. And, this sort of willingness to take on new challenges. In 2020, Priscilla took on the challenge of producing, the birding buzz for the youth, the youngest primary schools and the younger children from secondary schools. And she also had to learn to cope with the technology of Zoom, which is now an area that she's pretty comfortable with. And we've been able to enjoy some really superb Zoom meetings. So just to come back to the birding buzz, I mean, this is very popular with the school children. And we also, she'll be making hard copies available to those schools who don't have the access necessary to internet and printing that some of the other schools have. And being typical of Priscilla, although she's stepping down, she's not stepping out. So she will continue to be assisting with outings, arranging the evening meetings going forward, as well as continuing to produce the birding buzz. So Priscilla, we hope that you do have some time to put your feet up and that you have many, many hours of enjoying this hobby that you're so passionate about. Thank you very much. And just to let you know, we do actually have a Promerops. Thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Johan, and all the committee. I am sharing my video, but it doesn't seem to be coming up. Well, not to me anyway. And it really has been a pleasure to serve in this role, albeit that I took it on with really long tanda. And it's got easier and easier as the years have progressed. But I do think that after 7 years, it's time to bow out. There's one correction to what Johan said. He said that I was a graduate of Heather's beginner's course. Actually, I wasn't. I never actually did a beginner's course under Heather. However, what did happen was that Heather and I became firm friends, and she took me away to KwaZulu-Natal on my own personal birding course. It was the most exciting 10 days that I've ever spent birding. And I learned so much, and Heather was a very, very hard taskmaster. But I have her to thank for giving me that really good grounding in birding. And I have all of you to thank for supporting me in my role as chairperson. Thank you. Okay. And now, Joy and Johan, we're back to you, because you're going to be doing the draw for the prize.
Okay, so we have two draws to do. The first one is we're drawing a letter, which will give us the page number.
Joy, I've just realized that lots of people may not realize what we're doing. This is the draw for the raffle that was started at the quiz in December. And it is for 6 Kenneth Newman prints of raptors. And it was a prize that was donated by John and Margie Hemp. And it's really a beautiful, beautiful prize. And I asked Johan and Joy if they would do the draw, because they're the only ones on the committee where there were 2 in a house.
Right, so if you want to know who the...
No, that's not the winner.
Oh.
That's okay. So
No.
we've drawn sheet D, which is a sheet that Gillian Barnes sold to various people. So now we're going to draw for the number. Okay, so here one. Number 3.
Nope.
Oh, sorry, that's not
There are
sold.
a couple of unsold tickets.
In fact, there are quite a few.
Sorry, folks, we'll get through this quite quickly.
Number 2 is also not sold. Number 10.
Yes, we have a winner. It's a Jay Burett.
Julia
It's
Burett.
like Julia Burett.
Wonderful.
We've got
Gillian, is that a Cape Bird Club member or just a friend?
It's her daughter. It's Julia.
Oh, okay. Oh, very in-house.
Chairman. It's my daughter. No,
Well done. Please congratulate Julia.
I have to claim the money from her.
Yes. I also just want at this point to thank all those who sold tickets, committee members and others who volunteered. Can you remember offhand how much money we raised on that auction? Sorry, the raffle of selling tickets? I think it was in the region of 3,000 Rand. So that was really good. Thank you.
There is a master sheet here. Hold on. Well, it will show up in next year's
Yes, it will.
annual financial
Statement. Yes. All right. Well, now then, that is the end of the AGM. And it now gives me great pleasure. I'm going to share my screen again. But it gives me great pleasure to... Oh, why don't these slides change? That's a picture of, that's one of the lithographed prints. But it's my pleasure to introduce Michelle Vrettos, who is our guest speaker this evening. She's assured me that her presentation is very short, but many of you will already know the name of Michelle. Many of you will have read an article that's appeared in the September-October 2021 issue of African Bird Life. It was entitled Racing Stripes, and it was about her research with Arjun Amar on the dark malar stripes of peregrine falcons. She's a member of the Cape Bird Club too, and you will also have read about her in the November 2021 Promerops, where Johan, in the Bird's Eye View column, which is put together by the committee, welcomed her in her role of running the education program at 2 primary schools in the Steenberg area. We're so lucky to have this young lady on board. She's got a good rapport with kids, and her love of birds and birding can only rub off on them and inspire them immensely. She's going to be sharing with us something of her peregrine falcon research. Over to you, Michelle. I'm going to stop screen sharing, although it says that it has stopped from my side, and you can take over and share your screen, Michelle.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you to Priscilla for introducing me. So as Priscilla said, my name is Michelle Vrettos, and I'm a master's student at the Fitzpatrick Institute of African Ornithology at UCT. And I did my honors at UCT in 2019, and I was looking at the relationship between solar radiation and the dark malar or facial stripes of peregrine falcons. And my master's research is just an extension of this project to the rest of the falcon species. So last year, I also managed to get a journal publication out of my honors research that also generated quite a bit of media buzz and was reported on quite widely in the popular media outlets, although they were not always the most scientific outlets. As you can see, I was particularly amused by this article in the bottom right, using a photo of a bird that is quite clearly not a falcon. So some background on my research. So when we talk about falcons, we are usually talking specifically about diurnal raptors in the genus Falco, which are part of the falcon family, Falconidae. And there are approximately 38 or 39 species, depending on which taxonomic authority you ask. So something that is particularly interesting about falcons is that they're not actually closely related to other raptors. So their closest relatives are actually parrots and songbirds. And they're therefore an example of convergent evolution with the so-called true raptors, the Accipitridae, which are the hawks and eagles. Since they're not closely related, but they have independently converged on a similar body plan due to their similar ecology and lifestyle. So compared to other raptors, falcons are typically quite small. Many of them are highly agile, and they often have these distinctive pointed wings. And many species also specialize in hunting birds. So we actually have quite a high diversity of falcon species in Southern Africa. We have 15 species that occur here, although 6 of those are wintering migrants, like this photo in the middle, which is an Amur falcon. So as you can see from these pictures as well, most species of falcons, not all of them, but many, also have these distinctive dark malar, or also called moustachial stripes, which is a pair of dark facial stripes that extend below the eye. So this has prompted the question as to why so many falcon species show this distinctive trait and why it's not seen in other raptors, and therefore prompted many hypotheses as to what function these malar stripes could possibly serve. So a commonly proposed hypothesis for the function of these malar stripes is that they function to reduce solar glare. So glare is defined as non-information containing light that interferes with vision by reducing the ability to see and distinguish objects when in bright conditions. So black or just dark surfaces absorb light due to just the intrinsic properties of dark pigments. And therefore the theory is that dark markings around or under the eyes, like the malar stripes in falcons, might improve the ability of an animal to see in bright conditions by absorbing any excess sunlight that would otherwise be reflected into the eyes and interfere with vision. So if this was the case, we would expect to see larger and darker eye markings in animals that inhabit regions of higher solar radiation. So while this hypothesis hasn't received that much attention in the scientific literature, there have been quite a number of quite promising studies. So in both masked shrikes on the top left and willow flycatchers, bottom left on the left-hand side, painting the facial markings or the beak with white paint has been found to change the bird's behavior to make them forage less often in sunlight and more often in shade, and also reduces their efficiency at hunting in sunlight. Whereas in the New World warblers, that's the bottom on the far left, dark eye markings and dark beaks are also found disproportionately in species that inhabit very bright habitats. So for other species like the Ross's gull on the top right, in which juveniles have these dark eye patches, and also mammal carnivores like raccoons and cheetahs, it has often been suggested that dark eye markings could serve the solar glare reducing function, but this hasn't actually been tested scientifically, so it remains speculative and fairly controversial. But probably actually the most interesting evidence comes from humans. So sports players, and particularly American football players, often use what is called eye black. So that's either black grease smeared under the eyes, or it's black stickers worn under the eyes, with the theory being that this reduces glare and enables them to see the ball better when they're playing in very bright conditions. And an ophthalmology study actually tested this, and they found that wearing eye black does significantly improve the ability of sports players to see in bright conditions. So clearly there's quite reasonable precedent in the literature for dark markings like falcon malar stripes having an effect in reducing solar glare. So for my honours project, I set out to test the predictions of this hypothesis in peregrine falcons. So to do this, I downloaded over 2,000 photographs taken across the peregrine's geographic range from 2 online citizen science observation databases, the Macaulay Library and iNaturalist. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with these, but these are both online platforms where amateur naturalists and birders can share their photos, videos, audio recordings, or even just point observations of birds, and in the case of iNaturalist, other organisms as well. So for all the photographs, I then visually scored the appearance of the malar stripe for each bird. So I assigned each bird numerical scores from 1 to 10 based on the size or dimensions, so like the length and the width, and then also the prominence or the darkness of the malar stripe. Then since all photographs also had GPS coordinates attached, I used these to obtain climatic data, so solar radiation, but also temperature and rainfall from Google Earth Engine, which uses satellite data. So the question I was interested in asking here was, do trends in peregrine falcons support the predictions of the solar glare hypothesis? So do we see larger and darker malar stripes in peregrines that inhabit regions of higher solar radiation? And is this hypothesis supported over other potential climatic hypotheses like rainfall or temperature? So in keeping with the predictions of the solar glare hypothesis, I found that 4 out of 5 of the malar stripe variables I scored were positively associated with solar radiation, and that, as you can see from these pictures, peregrines had wider, darker malar stripes and also overall darker heads, or a more hooded appearance in regions of higher solar radiation. So the trends in peregrine falcons therefore support the hypothesis that falcon malar stripes function to reduce solar glare. So the questions to ask now are, firstly, do other falcon species also show these same trends? And also, how do differences in species ecology, like perhaps their habitat or their diet or their lifestyle, affect these relationships with solar radiation? So this leads into my master's thesis, in which I extended this analysis to look at all falcon species. So I followed much the same methodology as the honours project, except this time I downloaded nearly 11,000 photographs representing all 39 falcon species. And also, instead of iNaturalist, I used GBIF, which is just an online database that actually collates data from multiple citizen science platforms, including iNaturalist, but also including several non-English language websites. So it has a bit of a broader scope. So as in the Honors project, I also visually scored the malar stripes of all the birds using scores of 1 to 10. And I saw solar radiation data, but not temperature or rainfall this time, from Google Earth Engine again. So the questions I was interested in asking this time were, firstly, do the trends observed for peregrine falcons, so larger and darker malar stripes in regions of higher solar radiation, also hold both within other species and also across all the species as a whole? And then secondly, how are these trends affected by differences in species ecology, such as their habitat or their diet? So namely, is the relationship with solar radiation stronger or weaker for species with a particular lifestyle or ecology, or do we only see it in birds with a particular lifestyle or ecology? And so counter to my expectations, and quite disappointingly, I actually found that the size and darkness of falcon malar stripes were either non-significantly related or negatively related to solar radiation when looked at across all the species. And indeed, falcons seem to have paler malar stripes in regions of higher solar radiation, which is the direct opposite to what is expected under the solar glare hypothesis. And there were also no clear trends within most species. So no other species showed the trend towards consistently larger and darker malar stripes that the peregrine falcon did. Most of them showed no relationship with solar radiation. And these results therefore do not support the hypothesis that falcon malar stripes function to reduce solar glare. So what these results could possibly mean is either if falcon malar stripes really do serve a glare reducing function, that maybe average solar radiation is just a poor measure of the actual light environment or the actual amount of glare experienced by a falcon. Or else, of course, there could mean that malar stripes actually serve a completely different function in falcons that is totally unrelated to glare at all. So, of course, this does prompt the question now that if falcon malar stripes do not function to reduce solar glare, then what function do they serve? So one thing we did find that was quite interesting is that malar stripe size and darkness were related to habitat and diet independently of solar radiation. So falcons living in more forested habitats had larger and darker malar stripes relative to those living in open habitats like deserts or grasslands, and also species that specialized on birds had larger malar stripes than those that are more generalist feeders or eat more terrestrial prey. So one speculative possibility, therefore, is that malar stripes actually function as a form of camouflage, or what is called disruptive coloration, in which the dark markings around the eye serve to disguise the eye or break up the outline of the bird's face to make it less visible to prey. And a potential reason that this would be more important in falcons that specialize on birds is that birds have very good eyesight and are very visual creatures in general. So it's probably more important for falcons to disguise their eyes or faces when they're hunting bird prey than when they're hunting less visual prey, such as insects, rodents, or lizards. And many other bird species actually also have these kinds of disruptive facial masks or facial eye lines, which are thought to make the bird's face or eye less visible to other birds, albeit in the case of this European nuthatch or the ringed plovers, it's thought to instead function to make them less visible to bird predators instead of bird prey. But then alternately, of course, it is possible that falcon malar stripes serve a completely unrelated function that is outside the scope of this research. So, for example, they could serve as warning coloration to intimidate potential predators or rivals, or they could play a role in visual communication or social signaling, for example, in mate recognition. So another question to ask is why peregrine falcons showed such a reliable trend towards larger and darker malar stripes in regions of higher solar radiation when this trend is absent in all the other falcon species. So the peregrine falcon is actually a fairly unique species for two reasons. So firstly, it has the widest geographic distribution of any bird species and occurs and breeds on all continents except Antarctica, or New Zealand. So the fact that we found a trend for peregrine falcons and not for any other species may even just be a result of most falcon species just not having large enough geographic ranges or occurring in diverse enough regions to be able to detect a geographic trend, and the peregrine falcon being unique in this regard. But secondly, while the peregrine falcon is far from the only bird-eating falcon, or even the only falcon that hunts by fast, agile chasing of birds through the air, it is notable for being the fastest flying of all birds, and indeed is one of the fastest of all animal species. Peregrine falcons reach speeds of around 100 kilometers per hour just in normal flight, and can reach over 300 or even nearly 400 kilometers per hour when diving or stooping in pursuit of prey. So it may thus be that peregrine falcons are unique in having to pinpoint and keep track of moving targets while they're moving at these very, very high speeds. So meaning that they have to maintain very high visual accuracy and visual performance, even in very bright conditions. And so therefore, malar stripes could serve the role of reducing solar glare in peregrine falcons, despite not serving this role or not being as important for solar glare reduction in other species. So in conclusion, the solar glare hypothesis for the function of falcon malar stripes was supported in the peregrine falcon, but is not supported in other species. So from these results, we can conclude that solar radiation is not a primary driver of malar stripe evolution, at least in species other than the peregrine falcon, and that malar stripes likely originally evolved to serve a different function. So future research can expand on this both by performing functional experiments, for example, manipulating or painting over the malar stripe area of captive falcons, for example, painting over the malar stripe with white paint, to see if this affects the falcon's ability to hunt or perform tasks in bright conditions, and also by performing evolutionary analysis to try and determine when in falcon evolutionary history or where in the falcon family tree malar stripes originally evolved, and also the most likely environment and lifestyle experienced by this hypothetical common ancestor of falcons. So both of these would likely go some way to unraveling the mystery of the function of falcon malar stripes. So thank you. And I think we have time for questions.
We do indeed. If you wish to ask a question,
questions in the
just
chat.
unmute yourself.
Yeah.
May I ask a question? This is Heather Howe.
I'm just trying to bring up the chat again.
What are you trying to bring up, Michelle?
I can't seem to access the chat right now.
Look at the top of your screen.
Oh, there we go. Yes, there we go. Okay, I can see the chat now.
Okay, Heather, you want to ask a question?
If you look
Should
at
I turn my...
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. If you look at the size of the eyes of the peregrine, it has much larger eyes in proportion to its body size than other birds of prey, or am I just being stupid?
Oh no, I think falcons in general have fairly large eyes. And yeah, actually a lot of the sort of pop culture understanding of raptor vision isn't correct. But the studies, yeah, there have been actually fairly few studies looking at the visual acuity and the resolution of vision in raptors. But what we do have so far, I don't think there's any data for peregrines particularly, but I think it was the American kestrel, which is another falcon species, has the highest contrast sensitivity. So that's the highest ability to distinguish or resolve objects from each other of any bird species. So these things definitely do suggest that vision is very important for falcons particularly.
I was sort of thinking that if it's got very big eyes, it takes in a lot of glare, and therefore it has to have a device to absorb extra light or reflection.
yeah, that could definitely be. Well, you know, that is a lot of the theory behind it. But of course, we didn't find this relationship for the rest of the falcons. Whereas, if anything, I would think that the small falcons and the kestrels even have bigger eyes in proportion to their heads than peregrines do.
I'd like to thank you while I'm online for a wonderful talk. Thank you.
Thank you. So I turned my video off. I don't know if that's, I'm still here.
There's in the chat box, there's a message from Deanie Goodwin saying fantastic research, Michelle.
Yes, thank you. I'll type a message here as well.
It doesn't look as though anyone else has got a question. So thank you. I really enjoyed hearing about all that. And I'm going to hand over to Johan to do the thanks, the official thanks. Johan?
Hi, everyone again. Michelle, I've had the pleasure of working with you with the education program, and, you know, had a sense of some of that deep expert knowledge you have. But you have a gift that many experts don't have, and that's the ability to make the complicated simple. So your presentation was crystal clear. It held the attention, very interesting, and thank you for such a superb presentation.
And that brings us to the end of this evening.